Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys at Anymoon.com's review of Calibre Wings 172 scale die-cast F-14 Tomcat models. These are the S Fokker and J Hunter versions under the Robotech brand. These were released in March 2018 for $139.99 approximate US dollars. I got mine from Big Bad Toy Store, and if you are hunting for them, I recommend you do the same. These models come in a nice collector's style box. Both models pretty much the same with just a little bit different art on the front of it. Inside the lid of that collector style box, you will find a little backstory that retcons the Tomcat into Robotech. For the uninitiated, the Tomcat never does appear in Robotech or the original show Macross. This is a little retcon work to say that the Tomcat was used sort of as a test bed for features that would later be in the VF1. Inside the box, you will find a host of great things. You get exhaust nozzles in the afterburner position. You get 6 Phoenix missiles. You get 2 Sidewinder missiles that are already attached to the tree that will attach underneath the wing area of the Tomcat. You get 2 external fuel tanks and an authenticity card. Once you get underneath that tray, you'll find some more good stuff, including 2 pilot figures to sit inside the plane and 2 standing pilot figures, as well as little metal plates to help them stand, and I'll show you that in just a moment. There's also a display stand that consists of 3 pieces. There's a base, an arm, and sort of the adapter that connects it to the model, and instructions in the box below that. The toy comes with both seated and standing pilot figures. Now the standing pilot figures have a little bit of a snowboard made of metal. You put the feet into that little board and that's what allows them to stand. And you can see they look pretty decent. No real complaints there. They are both just the same guy twice. And that's what they look like standing next to each other. And that's probably the only time I'll have them out in this review. Then we have the opening canopy, and you can see I've already got the co-pilot figure in there. That's the radar intercept officer. Now the pilot figure, same exact mold, and he's just gonna go into the pilot seat. I guess while we have this open and we have the pilot out, you can see there's excellent painted on detail inside, both on the front and the side. And that's also true in the back, although it might be really hard to see. So good detail inside the cockpit. There is a joystick right in the middle. We're going to fish this pilot figure in with that joystick between his legs, and we'll push him in like so. Now, he does sit in there a little awkwardly. His helmet is on the headrest, but his back is pretty far away from the seat. But that's okay. So now we press down on the Canopy Glass, and the Canopy Glass does have this nice green tint to the front there. And there you go. Now you've got your pilot inside. You also have this silver stripe that goes across the top of the canopy. Obviously great work there. Nicely detailed in the front. And this front pitot tube is rubber, as are these little sensors off to the side here. So you might see some prongs and think that they're going to either hurt you or get bent, and that is not the case. So nice little detailed touches there. Let's take a look next at the exhaust nozzles. So the toy comes with the closed nozzles on, and we can go ahead and just pull them away. And they don't really screw on or anything. They just kind of plug into place. And you can see little hollow engine there. So then we can take our opened exhaust nozzles and put those on for a little bit different look. And while we're looking at the back of the plane, we have these stabilizers back here, and you can pivot those, which is pretty nice. And we also have an air brake. This air brake, now the instructions do mention a tool that comes with the toy. I didn't see a tool anywhere, so I'm using a toothpick. But we have these butterfly air brakes in the back. We can lift that up. You can see nice red detail below and above. Now here's one of my QC issues here. On my toy, a little hard to see, one of these is a little more inset than the other. And so when I lift it up, it doesn't open symmetrically. So we can go ahead and just pop that back open again, which I fish close a little bit there. So there we go, nice little air brake detail. And you can do the same thing on the bottom of the toy here. We have an air brake here as well. So fish that open. So now you have air brakes on the top and the bottom, and you also have a hook for catching the cable when this toy comes in this model for when an F-14 would be doing the landing, so you can simulate the landing pretty well. Now on my J version, and I assume all J versions, there's a little bit of a difference with the air brake in the back here. So here, if I lift this up, on the S version, as you just saw, this area here where the toothpick currently is all red. On my J version, that did not get painted red. The bottom of the air brake is still red. The bottom air brakes, both top and bottom, all red. But this top section here, not red on the J version. This toy comes with the landing gear on, and the landing gear do have rubber wheels and spin very fluidly, so that's nice to see. They are nicely detailed. You do have your tow hook in the front. Everything seems to be pretty clean. You have white bays painted on the inside, so that's all nice to see. The fit is a little questionable. This one's obviously a little loose. This one's pretty snug. This one's pretty snug, so it might vary from toy to toy with you. Toy to toy, I should say model to model. Sorry, force of habit, folks. So let's go ahead and remove just a little upward pressure. You could pull that right out. And then we can find our replacement part right here. And so now we're installing the closed bay doors. As you can see, it's pretty simple. Just plugs right in. Now again, we'll just pull up on this one, find the correct piece from our little pile of pieces, put that in, and it's kind of grabbing in there. Let's see. Get that in like so. So there, you can see maybe not the most perfect fit in there, but good enough for most people's purposes, especially for the underside of the bird. We will pull this up. We will put this in. And there you go. So a little weird that it doesn't come like this in the first place, since it does come with the display stand, and it seems like shipping with the wheels out would be a durability issue. But that's how you swap in the just flying pieces, the no landing gear out pieces. Now we do have some hard points to look at. So there's a connection here, and then you could put the Phoenix missiles on here, or we can pop these off, and there are attachment pieces for another missile below. And you could see there's kind of the spot for a missile right down the middle. None of those other attachments you really need to worry about, because there are no other missiles included with the toy other than the Phoenix and the one on the side. Now I'm going to go ahead and just pop these off just so you can get a look of what it looks like without those pieces on there. So if you didn't like the belly kibble, which I'm sure has a actual name for you fighter plane enthusiasts out there, but if you wanted to see a smooth bottom on your Tomcat, you can certainly pop off those pieces and achieve that. But I'm going to go ahead and put everything back on, and then we're going to look at how things attach on this model. Okay, so I've got my belly kibble back on. I now can attach my Phoenix missiles. You can see there's just 2 pegs on them. Boom, boom. And we just line them up and we apply them onto the toy. Now, the Phoenix missiles do a pretty good job of popping into place and sticking there. So I'm pretty happy with their implementation. Same thing with this belly kibble. For me, it's pretty solid on both of my versions of this model. So here we go. We're going to just keep going back and installing Phoenix missiles. So that's pretty well and good. Now, when it comes time to use these wing hardpoints, things get a little less enjoyable. So here we go. I've got this squared peg that goes into that slot right there. And you can see it comes off at an angle. It's a pretty steep angle. And the missile on top here is just another Phoenix missile that pegs into place. So nothing special there. This little missile on the side though is glued into place, and it fell off on both my versions of the toy. So I had to re-glue it back on, and before, well, actually on both of them now, I've managed to break off this little runner that connects this missile to this tree, as it were. So be careful, that's definitely a bummer. They're glued on both of mine now. Part of the problem is the weird angle that this connects to and how unsatisfactory that connection is. So you want to apply more pressure because it seems to fall off very easily. But in applying more pressure, it's very easy to start breaking things off. So have glue handy if you're going to be using these and popping them off and on again. The other thing that doesn't connect very well are these fuel tanks. They pop on here. It's very common for them just to fall off on me. So that can be an issue, but there you go. As you handle the toy, you begin to realize where you should and shouldn't touch it. So right there, my hand grazed this hard point here. And so it just fell right off. And you can see like that is just super tricky to get back into position. So these are models, they're not toys. And they remind you of that as you begin handling them with the ordnance on. But there you go, there's your full loadout. Looks pretty good. It's just pretty frustrating to handle. So remember, model, not a toy. Here we have a size and hue comparison. We have an Arcadia Premium Finish 160 scale VF1 to the left. We have the 172 scale F-14 Tomcat from Calibre wings. And then we have a Yamato V2 VF1 off to the right. The Premium Finish Yamato has lots and lots of detail work. All these red no steps. Just plenty of markings throughout. Writing all over it. It's almost gratuitous in its markings. And you might have thought, hey, I'm buying a die-cast model. I'm going to get all those markings too. And the truth of the matter is not so much. There are much fewer markings on the Calibre wings. Now that's not to say it looks Spartan by any means. It's nicely detailed. And it actually makes you more question if the Arcadia approach isn't completely over the top in comparison to something like the Calibre wings. Now the Yamato V2 obviously had a few markings on it, nothing over the top, and looks good with the Calibre wings. Now, continuing the size comparison, we can obviously extend out the wings on these toys. On the Calibre wings, they come out together. They are ratcheted together. And just to give you a feel, that's what we're talking about from a size comparison. Here is the display stand. It's pretty basic, but this is metal, and this is plastic up top. And you have the ability to come back and forth with it. You can see the back of the plane just slides into these hooks here. Now what that means for you is that you can't use your air brakes, and you really want to make sure that those things are tucked in tight as they can be. Now you can see mine are kind of flopping down on me a little bit. And these top ones need to be in too. And you can't use your landing gear hook. None of that's going to work if you're using the display stand. So all of that I would say is a little bit of a bummer. Now we just bring this in, we slide it in. Now make sure as you handle this, you can see my little rubber pitot tube coming in handy there. As you handle this, only hold it by the very front of the toy. This thing's all made of die cast. It's gonna respond well to being held by the front of the toy. If I touch it anywhere back from the front, it's going to knock off some of those armaments. And again, this is a model, not a toy. Doesn't handle very well, but for purposes of the display stand, it handles well enough, it holds on there well enough. You can get some good banking poses. Not really ideal for the landing gear out because of that lack of air brake or hook usage, but still good enough for a nice display piece. So now that you're familiar with kind of what comes with these toys and how it all comes together, let's talk more about the overall user experience. First, from a tactile point, these are incredibly heavy collectibles. This whole body, the wings, all are made of metal, and you feel it. Now, one thing to point out, if you did put this toy up, since these wings are metal, it's very easy for them to fall back. Now on my Fokker version, they tend to stay up just enough. And it's not like you're going to be having it going straight up and down, most likely, but something to be aware of. Now, beyond that, the paint is obviously very well done. One of the things I thought could have been done better for something that is a die-cast model is the little vector thrusters that are what make this a Robotech item, theoretically. Could have had some detail besides being painted on black circles. That clearly at this scale, everything's so nicely detailed. It seems weird that nozzles that theoretically are going to be shooting hot gases are just painted circles, right? You would expect a little bit more detail than that. But, you know, that's the MacGuffin of making this a Robotech release. Now, unlike the Wonderfest exclusives that were out there, you get UN Spacey badging underneath. You get a whole bunch of accessories that you didn't get with the original limited edition Macross debut of these vehicles. So the Robotech branding seems to be the one to go after unless you're a diehard Macross fan and only want to buy something labeled Macross. Now, paint-wise, I didn't really have any issues. There you can see the rubber of the pitot tube. And I got my Fokker first, and I was really happy with it. Again, it's difficult to handle without knocking stuff off, but when you begin to accept that it's a model and that's just part and parcel with it, not a big deal. Now, the one QC issue I didn't really like, this is obviously one piece of die-cast metal. This is another. They connect, and there's a fairly fat seam on my Fokker version. That, you know, I can overlook that. Then I got my J version, my Hunter version, if you will, and it was kind of a QC nightmare. So first off, when the wings open, I would get black smudges right here. Now I've read on Calibre Wings Facebook page that is just material rubbing off from what sandwiches the wings, and they're looking at finding a new material, and in the meantime you can use lighter fluid to clean it off, but just something worth noting there. Also, the antenna here popped off the first time I flipped this toy upside down, so I needed to glue that into place. The pitot tube in the front fell off numerous times when I first started handling it, so I went ahead and glued that into place. The pilot seat inside the vehicle was loose. It just plugs in. You could glue it into place also. I didn't bother, but you could. First time I handled this missile, it fell off. It needed to be re-glued into position. And also, it rattles where the nose meets the body. So this version definitely does not feel very well put together in comparison to my Fokker version. So sort of the good thing about getting two is you get a review where I have kind of both experiences, the positive and the bad. And even with my Fokker now, the landing gear bay door on the front has fallen off. It seems anywhere there's plastic on these toys, the glue job is less than stellar, and you should probably just assume you're going to spend some time fixing that glue job up. I am a toy guy, and this is a model. And we don't exactly see eye to eye on a few things. It doesn't handle nearly as well as I would like. I did way too much gluing for something brand new. So that was a little bit of a point of frustration for me. If you are someone looking for that old school metal hefty feel, this is it. It has that in spades. It also is beautiful. They did the great work on the paint job, great work on the details. So if you are a modeler or a collector of Tomcat models and also a Robotech or Macross fan, this is definitely up your alley, and I definitely think you should consider making the purchase. If you're interested, I have the link to Big Bad Toy Store below. That's where I would recommend you purchasing it. It's where I purchased mine, and I'm very happy with how that all worked out. Check out anymoon.com also for my full article with detailed close-up pictures. And as always, thanks for watching.